Hello, and welcome back to MoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the one and only Powerpuff Girls / JoJo's Bizarre Adventure recap and discussion podcast. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
Today we're going to be discussing the JoJo's Stardust Crusaders episodes, The Curse of Dio, and the Tower of Grey. I don't think I have any new JoJo Powerpuff Girls news today. I guess the only thing I think of is, of course, the Powerpuff Girls comics from Dynamite are still coming out each month. I haven't gotten my hands on any of them yet, but if you enjoy those and you want to see more Powerpuff Girls content, try to pick those up in person if you can.
Okay, so Season 2, Episode 3, The Curse of Dio. So this just for my keeping everyone straight. I'm not calling anyone JoJo for the most part.
Yes.
I'm like Gramps and Jotaro. I feel like it's confusing. Gramps says Kakyoin only has a few days to live, and Avdol explains that the thing on his forehead is a flesh bud that contains cells from Dio that can control his thoughts and actions. Gramps says Dio has charisma, which is questionable, and that trying to remove said flesh bud would kill him, but of course Jotaro is gonna try. Avdol says he saw Dio in Cairo 4 months ago. Avdol is a fortune teller and said Dio had a sensuality. Avdol, are you making a confession? Avdol was at first entranced by Dio's sweet voice, but then dived through a window to get away from Dio's weird, reaching, spiky hair and booked it through the marketplace, or souk, and was able to get away. Gramps had warned Avdol about Dio, and that is the only reason he got away. Jotaro decides to use his stand to remove the flesh bud, even though Gramps and Avdol are freaking out. A tentacle from the flesh bud enters a vein in Jotaro's hand. Kakyoin wakes up in the middle of this, and the tentacle reaches up to Jotaro's neck. The stand pulls out the flesh bud and tears it in half. Then Gramps uses overdrive to turn it to dust. Holly bandages up Kakyoin's head and tells him to rest. Holly reveals she is called, is it Seiko?
Yes, Seiko.
Seiko in Japan, and Gramps complains about it. Next morning, Jotaro is ready to go to school, but gets no kiss from Holly. Avdol discovers Holly passed out and sweaty in the kitchen. He checks her back, and there are transparent flower vines on her back, and he declares that she also has developed a stand. Avdol says she's not strong enough to control her stand and calls the stand Dio's curse. Gramps does not take this well and again says she doesn't have the strength. I'm not sure where they're getting that from.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what they were all like when they first got their stands.
Yeah, this really pissed me off. And I'm like, I don't know why she's supposedly so weak. It's not like she has a medical condition that the stand is making worse or something. They're just no, she's too kind and peaceful and weak.
I think if they kind of had warned her about it, and they could probably coach her through it, but whatever. Gramps says the only way to save her is to kill Dio. Jotaro has his stand examine the Polaroid of Dio to try to figure out where he is. Star Platinum sketches a fly, and Avdol thinks he recognizes it. So it's from the dark part of the Polaroid. There's a fly in the picture. Holly awakens but is told to rest. Kakyoin questions Avdol about the stand, possibly killing Holly. He says it will take 50 days to kill her. I don't know why it's exactly 50 days. She is able to drink a glass of water. She thinks she just has the flu or something because the stand is on her back and she can't see it. Weirdly, Gramps brushes her teeth, washes her face, and brushes her hair, and cuts her nails, and washes her leg. She talks about cooking supper, and Jotaro fiercely tells her to stay in bed until her fever breaks. She loses consciousness again, and Gramps surmises she deduced she had the stand, but was pretending she felt okay. Avdol figured out the fly is from Egypt. Kakyoin reveals he was in Egypt 3 months ago when Dio gave him the flesh bud. Kakyoin wants to go with them. So he made this whole thing about, he was talking about Holly, she's the type of girl he'd like to marry someday. Because she makes everyone feel so calm and at ease and whatever. Gramps yells that they must leave immediately. Some doctors from the Speedwagon Foundation come to care for Holly, and Avdol has Jotaro choose a tarot card in order to name his stand, the Star card, and it's named Star Platinum. He has strength and precision movement. Strength and precision movement. Gramps' is Hermit Purple. Spirit photography is its talent. And Avdol's Magician Red has fire and heat capabilities. Kakuin's is Hierophant Green, and he has remote stand manipulation and Emerald Splash.
As if that explains everything.
Yeah. Now they are ready to walk like an Egyptian to save Holly. They begin their flight, and apparently Dio also has Polaroid capabilities and can see the two Joestars on the plane. Gramps awakens because he saw that Dio saw them and warns there could be a new stand user on the plane. And then there's a beetle or a fly buzzing around it's not the cockpit, but like the passenger area of the plane.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the episode.
So, like I said, I've told you that Walk Like an Egyptian. Well, I told you that the song choice that they picked would be spoilery, and that's because it was Walk Like an Egyptian, and it was going to be, them going to Egypt. I still think it's funny that that's the one they picked. But I guess I can't think of too many other songs about Egypt off the top of my head, unless you count, like, the Steve Martin King Tut song.
Yeah, I mean, it is, like, it's a very poppy, fun, like, unserious song, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like they show them, like, their shadows walking while that song plays, and it's just kind of funny. I don't know.
Yeah. Some trivia I forgot last time is about, like, some of the characters' namesakes. So, Muhammad Avdol is named after Paula Abdul.
Oh, I guess.
Jotaro Kujo is named after the Hojo clan, a samurai family of the Kamakura shogunate. And I couldn't find anything about, like, Kakuin's name, like, being named after, like, anyone in particular, so yeah. Although apparently, like, he wasn't originally supposed to be named Noriaki Kakuin, he was supposed to be named, like, Tenmei, but, like, I guess the characters for that are similar, and so, like, the editor messed that up, and then Araki was just like, yeah, we can just keep it that way.
Oh.
And then I'll talk about the Star and the Hermit cards. The Star in tarot represents renewal, hope, serenity, and clarity. So I'm kind of paraphrasing this from the booklet that comes from my one tarot book. I think it's called, like, what did I say it was called? Ethereal Visions Tarot by Matt Hughes. So I'm just paraphrasing that, basically. So it said it's a reminder that you are connected to the universe and all the wisdom you seek is available. It's a time to embrace new ideas and growth. And the card has, like, a half-naked young woman dipping her toes in the water, a serene look on her face. The way the card looks, she appears to be a giant sitting atop a waterfall. Or at least that's how it looks like to me. And then the Hermit is about introspection, enlightenment, solitude, and reflection.
It's not about grumpy old men.
It's a little. You might draw this card during a time of reflection, one where you might take some time alone to look inside yourself for truth and wisdom. The card features an older man in robes holding a lantern in one hand and a wooden staff in another. He seems to beckon you from the fog, a light of enlightenment in the darkness. So that's my trivia for this episode.
I guess I should say, like, Kakuin, like, he did, say, like, that's the type of girl I would want to marry about Holly. But also, I think he was somehow impressed that, like, Jotaro risked his life to pull that flesh bud out and save him. So I think part of that is, like, he feels like he needs to go and help.
Yeah.
I'm like, but he's also in school. Like, what about his family and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like, when he went to Egypt, he was on family vacation, so, like, he's probably been missing from them for, like, the past 3 months since he's had the flesh bud.
I guess. But then, okay.
Unless he did go back with them, like, probably just back in Japan.
But I mean, spoiler alert for the next episode, but Dio knows where they're at and has already planted someone on the plane, but it took 3 months to get Kakuin over to transfer to his school.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It's a very fancy, like, private school or something, since, like, Jotaro's dad is a musician, like, maybe a pain in the ass getting registered there.
But even still, he, like, sort of attacked him outside of the school and just gave him that handkerchief, and it didn't even really require him even being a student in order to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even, like, when they were in, like, the doctor's office or whatever at the school, he just kind of, like, snuck in through the window or whatever. He was just kind of lounging on the windowsill.
Yeah.
So, the next episode is The Tower of Grey. So we start off with this creepy old woman talking about how fear is present in all animals, while Dio drains the blood from this naked lady. The old woman says that in seeing Dio, you experience joy when you normally feel fear. We cut back to the plane. There's this buzzing while Jotaro and Ko snooze. Jotaro says it's a stag beetle, and Joseph asks Abdul if it could be a stand, and Abdul is like, yeah, it could be a stand in the form of an insect. He buzzes near Jotaro's head, much to the alarm of the other three. Kakyoin's like, that thing is huge, it must be a stand. And I'm kind of like, duh, Kakyoin, it's gigantic, and bugs don't normally drool. I feel like the thing was like foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, it was.
Abdul warns them of a bug stand that rips out people's tongues before killing them. The stand is even faster than Jotaro's Star Platinum. Kakyoin declares that they need to find where the stand user is hiding on the plane. The bug stand tries to rip out Star Platinum's tongue, but Jotaro manages to keep it away with his teeth. Abdul is horrified that it is indeed the bug stand he thought it was, Tower of Grey, a stand responsible for many mass murders. Tower of Grey easily dodges Star Platinum's punches, then mocks them all, saying that they're gonna die here with the rest of these weaklings. So this is kind of like the first time we see like a stand can talk, or like the user is able to talk through, perhaps. It's like the other ones were pretty like silent and stuff, but anyways. Joseph realizes the user must be on the plane with him somewhere. The stand disappears and reappears and burrows its way through the back of three people's heads lined up in a row, ripping out all of their tongues. It uses the blood on or in the tongues to write the word massacre on the wall. Dude is not as subtle as he thinks. The narrator says the definition of massacre is to kill everyone. Oh, I found that funny when the narrator said that, but I did. Abdul wants to stick Magician's Red on the bug and set it ablaze, but Kakyoin cautions him not to when this old man gets up to use the bathroom. He feels the blood on the wall and freaks out when he sees the word massacre. Kakyoin knocks him unconscious so he doesn't freak out the other passengers. Kakyoin cautions Abdul and Jotaro not to use their stands because they might make the plane explode or rip a hole in it. He says Hierophant Green is a stand for the job. He sends Emerald Splash after Emerald Splash after Tower of Grey, but isn't fast enough. Tower of Grey makes fun of him for this and threatens to rip out his stand's tongue. Kakyoin decides that Emerald Splash is still the best course of action and tries to hit Tower of Grey again, which still doesn't seem to work. Tower of Grey says that if he rips out Kakyoin's tongue, he'll go mad from the pain, but Kakyoin says he'll go mad from joy when he rips apart Tower of Grey with Hierophant Green's tendrils, which he hid in and around the seats. Kakyoin says that he was actually using Emerald Splash to keep Tower of Grey in one place. The tendrils wreck Tower of Grey, and the old man Kakyoin knocked out is revealed to be the stand user. Kakyoin says repulsive stands often have repulsive users. And then Abdul is like, this old man doesn't have a flesh bud because he was just plain evil and greedy and was easily bought by Dio. It is then that they realize the plane is flying crooked. Joseph forces his way into the cockpit with Jotaro and Kakyoin in tow. Jotaro has to be an a-hole and call the flight attendants bitches, and Kakyoin asks him to forgive Jotaro for him. When they get into the cockpit, the pilots are dead, tongues ripped out before they even knew the stand user was aboard. The autopilot was also destroyed. The old man, who has a cracked head and a split tongue, gets up to gloat about killing all of them and how great Dio is, saying that even if they survive the crash, they'll be way off from Egypt. And then he falls back to the ground in a spurt of blood, and I think that time he does actually die. Jotaro tells the flight attendants that Joseph will land the plane. Yes. Plane crash prone Joseph. Joseph says he's only flown prop planes and that he's on his third plane crash, and that he's not sure the odds are in his favor for surviving a third. Jotaro says says he never wants to ride on a plane with Grandpa Joseph again, which is fair. He's been in so many plane crashes, that Joseph. They manage to land plane in the ocean off the coast of Hong Kong. Joseph tries to get a new plane with only themselves and the crew, or at least that's what I thought he was doing. That might not be. But he definitely wanted to get something with only themselves and the crew to avoid hurting any more civilians.
I think they tried to, but then they decided flying was just a bad idea.
Yeah, that might be the case. So then he's at the payphone and everyone else is kind of like wandering around nearby. And this dude tries to sell them porridge and hot cola. But Joseph says there's no time to eat there, and they're going to another restaurant instead. And then he says that the hot cola is basically blasphemous.
I guess it kind of is, because it's not how it's made to be served, but I guess it could be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think there was, like, with Pepsi and cola, I just kind of know this. One of them was made to be, like, drunk hot, and the other one was meant to be drunk cold. I forget which is which.
Oh.
So they were supposed to, like, both taste the same when one was hot and one was cold, but normally people drink them now cold, so they taste different.
Oh, okay.
Joseph says I can't fly to Egypt now because it's too dangerous for normal people to be on a commercial flight with them in case there's another stand like Tower of Grey after them, so they need to get there by land or sea. Joseph cites around the world in 80 days as the reason they'll get to Egypt in time. Joseph suggests they go by sea because it will be safer than going by land and running the risk of coming in contact with even more stand users than necessary. They need to be vigilant and avoid being spotted by their stand users, but are spotted by a man with heart earrings and a big-ass flat top. As they talk some more, the man comes over, claiming to be a French tourist who needs help reading the menu. Jotaro tells him to shove off, but Joseph says they should be nice to him and invites him over. Joseph says he's been to Hong Kong many times and tries to order off the menu, but everything ends up wrong. He says everything is delicious anyway, so they should still eat it. And I guess everything does end up being tasty, so it's fine. The Frenchman says everything was almost artistically prepared, including the star-shaped carrots, which he says remind him of a friend with a star-shaped birthmark. Everyone tenses up and the rice boils, and then the French guy attacks with his silver stand, which has a fencing foil. Abdul tries to ward him off with Magician's Red, but the Frenchman's stand is very precise and speedy, and he knocks the flames away and into a clock-shaped pattern on another table. He declares his stand to be Silver Chariot and says he'll kill Abdul before the flaming clock reaches 12. And that is the end of the episode.
Yeah, just how that dude looked, you knew he was gonna be, like, trouble.
Yeah. They're always like, oh no, who could be the stand user among us? And there's always someone in, like, this high fashion outfit with, like, weird hair.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's, like, amongst, like, a crowd of people dressed, like, completely normally. And then they're just like, oh no, it couldn't be the most anime-ass looking guy. It couldn't be him.
I'm just not sure how these people are finding them this quick. It's almost like John Wick or something. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's like all these people on the subway are just like out to get them or whatever. But they wait conveniently until they start coming towards Egypt or whatever.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Dio just leave and hide or something?
I don't know.
I was kind of getting excited when they talked about around the world in 80 days, so that maybe they were going to travel by hot air balloon.
Yeah, that could have been fun.
I don't know if you said it, like, why they decided to go by sea, just because there could be all kinds of, like, roadblocks or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, deserts and, like, mountains and stuff that they would have to go through. I could see the sea being just as treacherous, though.
Absolutely.
Like, I think it is, in modern times, not as scary as, like, a long time ago, because they've got all kinds of, like, equipment where they can actually tell where they're at.
Right.
And then, of course, you have motors and stuff now, so you're not just waiting for the whim of the wind to push your sails. But, yeah, again, I'm not sure why they don't go with a plane, other than just the bad luck they had the first time there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would want to be at sea with a stand either. I almost feel like land would be safer.
I'd probably have gone with land too, but just like, I guess the idea of being like stuck on a small like craft with like nothing else around you like really freaks me out. And that's kind of why like planes get me too. So like for the same reason, like boats, I would not enjoy either. Also, I hate the rocking motion of the water.
I mean, there's like trains and stuff now too.
Yeah.
Like some places anyway. I think you can go across China at least on a train.
Yeah, and they're already in Hong Kong, so
Um,
one would think they'd give it a whirl.
I don't know.
I don't know if they had the high-speed trains in '87 or not. I'm not totally sure when those became a thing.
I don't know, but like you're kind of going in a straight line, whereas when you're with the boat, you have to go all the way around all those continents.
So I guess my trivia for this episode is Power of Gray's user is named Gray Fly, which is supposed to be a tribute to Glenn Frey, a member of the Eagles.
It's Glenn Fry.
Glenn Fry, sorry, my bad. It looks like Frey, though, to me.
I'm pretty sure it's Fry, but like some of these are like off. Like they're like it's supposed to be this person, but it's like not even close to that name. And I'm like,
Yeah, like Afton. And some of them, it's because they had to switch the name for like copyright reasons.
Okay.
And then others, I'm not totally sure. Like maybe it's just like the localization. So I don't think they reveal what the French guy's name is in this episode. So I might leave that for a later one. But the Tower and Chariot cards I will talk about here in a second. So they kind of talk a little bit, even in the episode, about what the Tower card represents. But it can also mean upheaval, change, awakening, and shock. It represents great change, ruin, the familiar breaking down, and removing you from your comfort zone. Cards in tarot are typically supposed to be considered positive or negative, but it is considered unlucky to pull the Tower. A lot of people will freak out when they get the Death card, but pretty much the Tower is what people think that the Death card is. Death card is mostly just about, like, change. The Tower's usually about disaster. The card in my deck, the Ethereal Visions, it features a man in a blank white mask falling from the top of a tower, and sometimes the tower is depicted as being struck by lightning as well. And on my card, there's kind of like a bunch of lightning at the top, like a bunch of zigzags. And then the sky around it is kind of more like a sunset type thing. And then the Chariot represents conquest, control, victory, and motivation. It symbolizes willpower, determination, and self-assurance in any challenge. It is a reminder to be steadfast and in a place of self-control in any situation to overcome obstacles. The card features a shirtless person atop a chariot that features two lions with women's faces. So basically sphinxes. One of the sphinxes is black and the other one white. The person in the chariot is posed as if running and holds an unlit torch, and it kind of makes me think of the original Olympics in ancient Greece, just kind of because of the runner with the torch kind of symbolism going on.
You had said the old dude on the plane, the Tower of Grey guy, that he was responsible for a bunch of massacres. So they had shown like a bunch of plane wrecks and like trains crashing that he was apparently responsible for. I'm not sure how he's causing those things and then making it out alive.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that either.
I mean, I guess he could send his stand maybe from afar. I don't know how far away the stand can go from a person.
Yeah, it depends on the user and the stand.
Taking out, the pilots or whatever, and then he's just not even on the plane or the train, but that's why they said he was responsible. I mean, I'm assuming that's what he did, was something similar to what he tried to do on their plane.
Right. So I guess that concludes our discussion of these two episodes. Next week, we are going to be talking about the episodes Silver Chariot and Dark Blue Moon. So that basically just tells us what the stand names are going to be. So I guess I'll be talking about the Moon card next week, too. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you haven't already, it would be super cool if you could follow/subscribe, depending on what platform you are, to the podcast and leave a review. If you're listening on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and I believe Spotify, you can even leave comments on individual episodes. If you're listening to this on YouTube instead, like, subscribe, leave a comment. My YouTube channel is Agent of Mischief Gaming, but you can find all our podcasts on there as well.
share with your friends. And we do have a Facebook page. We have other pages for this.
We do have a Facebook group. It's called, I think, what did I name it? MoJo's Bizarre Adventure Podcast. And then we have a Blue Sky, which I set up a couple days ago. You can find that under either MoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or at MoJo's Bizarre Pod.bsky.social.
There's Instagram too, right?
Yes, we do also have an Instagram for this one. I don't post on there nearly as much as I should. That one is MoJo JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, all one word.
So I was just going to do a call to action. You guys can answer these questions like either in the comments on YouTube or Spotify or on one of our social media pages. But do you think you would want to have a stand? What powers would you want your stand to have? And what would you name your stand?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm still processing that these stands exist at this point,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I think it would be cool as hell to have a stand. I'm not sure what powers it would have. That's because they're supposed to kind of like have a power that sort of like represents you and your personality. So I'm not sure what mine would be necessarily. But actually, I did have a dream one time where I was playing like a tabletop RPG JoJo game, and in that my stand was named Major Tom after like Major Tom and like Space Oddity.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that sounds a little military for me, but I could maybe see myself naming a stand Space Oddity though, because I do really like that song.
I mean, I wouldn't want like killing or destroying capabilities. Like maybe I don't know, something like I kind of liked what Jotaro's stand was kind of bringing him fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of, because they're saying Holly can't handle it, like does it take a certain amount of like life energy or something to keep them going? I'm just kind of confused on that point. So I'm just not sure if I would want something like that, like sucking energy or whatever, or like if it took a while to get it under control and it's doing shit I don't want it to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would want one.
And then I'd say like stands have like kind of more simple abilities in this part, but they get wild after a while, so I don't even know what kind of ability. I can just think of like, when I think of what kind of superpowers I'd want, like telekinesis, invisibility, super healing, super speed. So I'm like, maybe something like that I could deal with.
Yeah, something like a little more like positive, help other people or like help me do things.
Yeah.
I don't want to destroy or kill. I mean, unless it's like defensive, like
yeah.
But yeah.
And so we do also have a second podcast as well. It's called What We Pod in the Shadows, and we're discussing the sitcom What We Do in the Shadows, which is about 4 vampire roommates and their familiar Guillermo living on Staten Island and just getting up to wacky vampire hijinks. So check that out if you think you'd enjoy that, and if you want to hear us talking more about vampires, I guess. But yeah, I think that wraps everything up. So I'm just gonna do the usual and say, until next time, I'll be the roundabout. Goodbye.
Goodbye.